What's up, Rundown listeners? We are back. That's right, the Rundown has returned. Justin and I were talking about this right before the episode, and we said on our last one that we were probably going to take a week off, but we never gave any confirmation of that. So here is your official confirmation. We did take a week off, and we're back. In case you all weren't aware by the lack of an episode last week. Justin, man, it's been a couple weeks since we did this. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I feel like we were just going hard for the entire NFL season, and I think we just needed a week to kind of step back and take a break. I mean, we see Colin Coward and all those guys. They take time off, so I think we just needed that to kind of reset. So, but yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, and I mean, we were definitely like NFL, 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 NFL every week, so it was kind of nice to kind of get that week off to kind of refocus and really pivot to NBA as well, the NFL is over, so despite the fact that we will have quite a bit of football content today, we are on to the NBA. So that being said, let's get right into it. So, some unfortunate breaking news to start. Former All Pro cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers and current undisputed co host Richard Sherman was arrested for a DUI. He was pulled over going 79 in a 60-mile-an-hour zone. And at the time that I wrote this script, and I will be honest, I haven't checked any news to see yet, but his bail was set at 5,000. So, not a high bail, but just on
That's a couple pennies for him.
yeah, just unfortunate though. Like, Richard Sherman's one of those that I mean, he's obviously had his demons on and off the field, and it feels like stuff like this for people of his stature are kind of a cry for help. Like I know he had that weird incident a few years ago with like his family and stuff, and then here we have this. So really, just hoping that if he does need help, he gets the help he needs, and he can move past this and bounce back. So.
For sure.
Next, the Los Angeles Clippers have unveiled a new logo. This is still part of the unfortunate breaking news because, why don't we get in a nice little preview here of this logo, and let me bring this in. Let me get rid of the and it man, it is something. We've got this weird like cruise ship in the middle and a sea that looks like a compass, but also is for the Clippers. And I'm gonna be honest, this ain't it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I mean, it's like they were trying to go with like a retro, but also a new brand for their new arena, and I feel like they missed.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what they're trying to do. Like Steve Ballmer, he's putting $2 billion into this new arena, and it's going to be insane. And so, as like they're trying to kind of pull away, and I don't know. It just feels like I just don't know what was wrong with the logo that they had. Like, why couldn't they just use that to like? I don't know. It's odd. It's odd, and I'm not a huge fan of the logo.
It is odd, and honestly, like I don't know. I think my problem with it is the logo just doesn't really feel like it has any personality.
It
Like,
doesn't feel like an NBA logo,
no, it really doesn't.
Like when I'm looking at it, it doesn't.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those logos whenever you would sim like 10 years into the future on Madden and you would play like the freaking Toronto like Great Whites or something like
Red
that.
jackets.
Yeah, in the Super Bowl, and you're just like, who? And you just get like that stock logo. Like this just feels like somebody opened up Canva and they typed in ship and then just kind of went from there. So yeah, let me get this monstrosity off the screen. And yeah, so that's really all I have on that.
Yeah, I mean it's symbolic because they'll be taking a cruise ship to Cancun every year after the first round. So I mean it makes sense, I guess.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
That was a
just
funny. That was
roast the logo and the Clippers at the
yeah.
same time.
That was a funny tweet. I saw that one too. Um, Next on our list is Cam Newton was speaking at an event, and a group of like 6 people, challenged him to stand on business, and he stood on business. He got jumped by about 6 people, but fought them all off on his own pretty much. I mean, security stopped in, but he had given a couple people all they wanted, and he looks like he's fine. He's in good spirits, but honestly, this is just sad. Like, regardless of how you feel about him and his, stances, what he says, that man's still an NFL MVP, and like, it's just society has this weird thing where they feel like they can just run up on somebody, and it's like, dude, have some respect, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, it just feels like a weird sense of entitlement that like they can say and do whatever they want and there's not going to be any repercussions. And it's like that's not how the world works.
Yeah, it definitely makes me feel like the people who get in trouble for like saying the N word to Russell Westbrook or something like that, and then he gets them kicked out of the arena, and it's like,
And they're like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like,
I paid
no,
for tickets.
you did.
I paid for tickets. You can't ban me. Like, paying for a ticket, you're still a spectator. You don't have the right to treat people like that. So
Yeah, and saying like, oh, West Brick, like, okay, that's different than, calling him the N word. Like,
right,
two different things.
right. The next story is NFL related still. So give me 1 minute while I load the entire list of running backs that are not going to be franchise tagged because, well, that's going to take up half the episode to get all the names together. But we have,
Yeah, I think the list was like 9 terabytes worth of data.
yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, so we have Chargers running back Austin Eckler, Titans running back Derrick Henry, Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, Giants running back Saquon Barkley, and Raiders running back Josh Jacobs will all not be franchise tagged by their teams. All of those except for Josh Jacobs are going to become unrestricted free agents. Josh Jacobs is expected to reach an extension with the Raiders. So we can get into Josh Jacobs in a minute. But first, which teams do you think should pursue these running backs and where do we think they will land? So I think the most likely landing spot for Saquon Barkley is the Chargers. Um, Jim Harbaugh has said a lot that he was interested in Saquon. He was interested in him first. And I just think that that's a good fit. He's a power back who can also do some pass catching and is another weapon for Justin Herbert. And I could see that being a good fit there. Austin Eckler, it's hard to say. I could see him taking a deal in like Kansas City or maybe even like Cincinnati, somewhere that like has a back but could use another threat like that. Like Cincinnati, I think would benefit from Austin Eckler because he could do kind of the stuff that Joe Mixon can't anymore.
I mean, we did draft and utilize Chase Brown pretty well. And Chase Brown is on a rookie deal and is a million times cheaper than whatever Austin Eckler's going to want. So I'm happy with Chase Brown.
That's true. I'm with you, but also Chase Brown.
If you're looking at
Austin Eckler,
I hear you, but I would prefer Chase Brown.
No, I'm completely with you. Derrick Henry, I think his most likely landing spot, everything that I've seen is pointing him to Baltimore or Dallas.
I don't want to see him go to Baltimore.
I honestly think that Dallas is probably the most.
I think that'd be good for him.
I think that's probably the most realistic spot for him. If he wants to win a Super Bowl, I think Dallas would be a great spot because one of Dallas's main problems is that they had no running game, but they have a good offensive line. It's just Tony Pollard wasn't that guy. As far as Tony Pollard goes, I could actually see a scenario where Dallas lands Derrick Henry and he re-signs to be that second back. Tony Pollard very clearly is not a number one, but I think if you have him behind Derrick Henry, I think he's a good fit. If he doesn't re-sign, outside of like a team that already has a good back that needs a good number two, like maybe like an Atlanta or something, I don't see a scenario where Tony Pollard gets some like lucrative deal. What are your thoughts?
It's tough because it just feels like they have devalued the running back position so much over the last like 5 years that it's tough to say where any of these guys are going to land because a lot of these teams they're winning and doing well without one of these star running backs. I mean, the Bills had James Cook, which until like 8 weeks into the season, he was a who? Like, yeah, I mean, we know who he was, but like he wasn't, he wasn't a prolific running back. The Chiefs did it with ankle biter, whatever his name is.
Isaiah
I can't think of it.
Pacheco.
Isaiah Pacheco, and and I mean they did just fine. I know the Niners had Christian McCaffrey, but it just feels like they've
Oh
devalued the running back
gosh.
position a lot. I mean Baltimore, they did it with like 97 different running backs this year, so
I'm pretty sure you and
it's
I
tough.
were running
It's tough
backs
to
for.
say.
I'm pretty sure you and I were running
What?
backs for Baltimore at one point.
Honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. I should be getting my check from them soon.
Probably.
But yeah, it's just tough to say where any of these guys are gonna land. I do have a
If you
potential landing spot for Saquon, but that is gonna come later.
okay, okay. Um, do you okay? Let me ask you this then. What are your thoughts on what I said? If you don't want to give landing spots, that's fine. But what do you think about who I said? So I said um, Austin Eckler to like Kansas City or Cincinnati. I said, which I think you gave me your thoughts on that one. You don't think Cincinnati's an option, and honestly, Austin Eckler to Kansas City probably doesn't make that much sense either because running back is not really a positional need of theirs. Um, Derrick Henry to Baltimore or Dallas. You said Dallas wouldn't be bad, so Tony Pollard. I'm kind of curious on how you feel about what I said there.
Yeah, I think that he would flourish more as an RB2. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
saw that like when he was behind Zeke, he was a fantastic running back because he wasn't having to take the main load of the snaps, and he was able to just kind of be that like shifty guy. And it just felt like once he had to take 70% of the snaps, that he's not that guy. If he's in there for 30 to 40% of the snaps and he's only getting 10 carries a game, 10 touches a game between passes, that I think that's where he's going to flourish more. So I do kind of agree that if the Cowboys do land one of those other three guys, maybe he resigns as kind of an RB2 and he's willing to take less money.
Mm-hmm.
But if he really wants to be the guy somewhere and it's not going to be Dallas, I could see a place like maybe Minnesota. I know that now that they've gotten rid of Dalvin Cook, I don't know. I mean, Ty Chandler, I don't really think he's the guy.
Who's the
So,
other guy they had? Was it
I don't
Matt
know who their
Matt
other.
was it Madison or was it
It wasn't Matt Breida, was it?
no, it
No,
was
that's the Giants. Yeah, Alexander Madison. Yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but I mean, I would still take Tony Pollard over Alexander Madison. So,
Tony Pollard is the RB2 behind Bijan. Book it now. Um, okay, so Josh Jacobs then is expected to reach an extension with the Raiders. One of the questions I had was how big is this for the Raiders, and then do you think we'll see Josh Jacobs return to form where he led the NFL in rushing?
um, I don't know because I mean, Josh Jacobs, while he's not old, he's getting up there in terms of running back. I mean, we talk about Joe Mixon, who's 28 years old. We talk about him in terms of being old, and he's 28. He's been in the league for like 6 or 7 years. And I know Josh Jacobs, he's probably 25, 26. But you got to think like these prime guys, unless you're Christian McCaffrey, your prime of a running back is like 22 to 26. So he's on the later half of that. And I would like to see him return because I think he's a great player. He's just a fantastic running back to watch. Um, so it's tough to say if he's going to return to form to where he was. But I would like to see that, and I think this is huge for the Raiders. I think that having that established guy in your locker room, which on the offensive side of the ball, I mean Tay's been there for a year and a half now, 2 years, whatever it is. Outside of that, you don't really have like an established like stud on your offensive side of the ball. So I think having him in the locker room would be good for just team morale, especially with your rookie head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Having a guy that's been there and done that with that franchise.
You want to know? You want to know the craziest stat I have ever seen that I saw today?
What's that?
Derrick Henry is older than Todd Gurley, who hasn't played in the NFL in 3 years.
Todd Gurley is going to be one of those guys that like 15 years from now, you're going to be sitting around a campfire with your friends and be like, dude, do you remember Todd Gurley with the Rams? Like, do you remember he was a stud? And like,
It's funny
Our
because
kids are never gonna know who Todd Gurley was.
his like final career highlight is accidentally scoring a touchdown on the Falcons when he should have gone down at the 1 yard line, and he tried to, but he like couldn't pull up in time.
Yeah, and then the Falcons came back and won that game because they
Yeah,
recovered the onside kick.
they lost that game. Or no, it was
The
he
Falcons
was.
came back and won that game because they scored, recovered the onside kick, and scored again.
Oh right, but he shouldn't have scored. Like better
Yeah,
play would have been to not score there because they could have run
just go down and then you take the knee. Yeah,
but yes, but I just remember like Todd Gurley was one of those guys that's like, man, when he was in his prime, he was like LaDainian Tomlinson almost. Like he was nasty.
yeah,
His prime was just like 3 years long.
yeah. Unfortunately,
It sucks, but let's pivot from the NFL for a bit. So while we were out, the NBA All-Star Weekend happened, and I mean, to be honest, it's probably a good thing we took that week off because the entire notes, the entire notes section for this is like not that long. So
maybe half a page.
maybe, yeah. So top story from that, I guess, the Eastern Conference demolished the Western Conference, 211 to 186. Let me just, are you ready for this? Let me just read you some stats, okay? So on the Western Conference side, Karl Anthony Towns had 58 and 3. SGA had 31, 4 and 6. Those were the two highest scorers. You ready? You ready for the East? You ready for this? Okay. Here are all of the guys who had 20 plus points for the Eastern Conference. Jaylen Brown with 36. Jason Tatum with 20. Giannis Antetokounmpo with 23. Tyrese Halliburton with 32. And Damian Lillard with 36. I'll stick with just the All-Star game really quick. It's not fun. Like, nothing about the All-Star game is fun. There's no defense played at all. I mean, I'm confident that I could go out there at the All-Star game and score like at least 10 points.
Oh yeah,
because nobody's going to guard me. And I am a good enough shooter that I know I could pull up from like some stupid distance, like, the volleyball line or something like that, and I could hit a few. Yeah, there's no real incentive for players to play hard. I mean, a lot of them consider not even playing, and it's just a boring watch. Like, I don't even know if they did the Elam ending that they did it for a few years this year because I genuinely didn't care enough to watch the entire game. For those of you that don't know, the Elam ending is one where, like, I think with like 5 minutes to go or something like that, instead of the clock continuing to run, they pick a target score that is a certain amount of points above the higher scoring team, and the first team to reach that score wins. So it eliminates like the last few minutes, and it makes them actually play hard because it's like you're trying to beat the other team. So, Justin, what should the NBA do to make specifically the All-Star game more enjoyable for fans? Because I genuinely didn't watch it. I watched some of the other stuff, but I didn't watch the game.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game either, if I'm being honest. Some things that I've heard to be potentially floated around. I think the first thing is I think the NBA should dish out some more money and help incentivize some of these guys to win. I mean, they dished out $100,000 to each player for the winning team of the in-season tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to dish out money for that. And if you want more people to watch it, that means you want the level of play to be higher. And if you want the level of play to be higher, you need these guys to actually compete. And if they actually compete, more people will watch it. Like it's a cycle here.
Yep.
So I think if they would be willing to dish out some money and just like say, hey, the winning team gets X amount of money, and the All-Star MVP gets a little bit more, $10,000 extra or whatever it is, and I think that would incentivize guys to play a little harder. I don't know. The other thing that I saw was the MLB does the their All-Star game, and whichever team wins that that league gets home field advantage for the World Series.
That's what I was.
So
that's what I
so
was
essentially in this scenario, whoever comes out of the East, if they were doing this, would get home court advantage in the NBA Finals. In this scenario, if they did that this year,
which could be huge because home court game 7.
It's a lot easier to play at home in front of your fans than on the road.
Unless you're the 2016 Warriors, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Shots at my own team.
So, I've seen that floated around. I don't know if that's an actual viable option. I know some people would be upset because it's like, oh, you would have, I can't even think of an example, but some guy that's like the 13th seed going out there and trying to fight to win a game that he's not even going to be a part of the playoffs to even make the NBA Finals for it to even matter for him. So why does he care? You're going to have him influencing who gets home court advantage. And it's like, I get that. My solution to that would be you have the coaches are the top seeds in each conference. Mm-hmm. So, like whoever is the first seed going into the All-Star game, their coaches coach the All-Star game. So why wouldn't they also try to coach to win?
Right.
So that, I think everybody should get X amount of playing time. Everybody, 48 minutes, everybody gets at least 6-7 minutes of playing time, and then down the stretch those coaches pick the 6-7 guys that they want interchanging for the last 8 to 12 minutes of the game. That's a way to fix that. Because they're trying to win it, because if they're leading the West or the East, they have the best shot to make the finals, and that means that they have a chance to have home court advantage in the finals. So I think it makes sense. I don't know.
Here's another thing to further bolster. Say you have a guy like Steph, for example, who I tried to combine example and for instance, and so I said for existence, but
you tried, and that's what matters.
Yeah. So Steph, for instance, who at the time of the All-Star game, the Warriors were not very good. I mean, they're still not great, but they have won like 11 of 13 or something like that. So like they're looking a lot better. But they were like the 12 seed going into All-Star.
I think they're 10th right now. Yeah.
They were like the 12 seed going into All-Star weekend, though. An incentive for that player to play harder in the All-Star game could be like, if it's a team that like there's no hope, like say Detroit had somebody that made the All-Star game, then like, give that, if that player is on the winning team of the All-Star game, then maybe their team gets an extra I don't remember exactly how they do the draft lottery, but like, they get an extra entry to make it more likely that
their team, a little bit higher of a percentage.
Yeah, to make it more likely that their team gets a better pick. Something just like that. Ideas. Yeah, that way they could they have incentive to play better too, because I'm with you, like if my team is 4-52 or whatever the Pistons are right now, and I make the All-Star game, me personally, I'm playing for myself, because I'm like, dude, I got to go out there and put on a show because I'm the only good thing about my town. But I understand why some players might be like, what's it even matter? Anyway, outside of the actual game, we had a couple of events. There was the Unskilled Challenge. They call it
where Scotty Barnes shot a backwards half-court shot.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's... Man. I just can't. Oh, gosh.
Like, they're trying to win, and he grabs a ball from half-court and just turns around.
Gosh.
I'm sorry.
No, it's funny, because it's like, what are we watching? Like, what is happening? Damian Lillard won I think this is his second 3-point contest win.
Second in a row. He won back-to-back.
He got back-to-back. Okay, I couldn't remember that, so I didn't put it in the notes. But I knew it was his second win. I just couldn't remember if it was back-to-back or not. But he scored 26. So how impressive is this win for Dame, especially going back-to-back?
I think the people. I think the players take the 3-point contest a little more serious. I think that's something you can put on your resume. Mm-hmm. I know a week or so ago, we were talking about Karl Anthony Towns and, saying that to put on his resume as a 3-point contest winner, that, that gives him the case of being the best big man shooter of all time. Um, so, I think that's something that they do take a little more serious. But I don't know. I mean, 26 isn't like a super high score. So I mean, it's impressive, but also it's like, I know the guys that he was competing against are good, but I don't know. It's just this whole weekend to me is just kind of not interesting.
But also like only 26. Come on, bro. I could do that on Wii Sports Resort. Um,
Right.
yeah. So I will get to the part of why this isn't as impressive for me here in a second, but before I do that, Mac McClung won the NBA Slam Dunk contest for the second year in a row. Um, I agree with a lot of what I've seen the commentary around it be, in that we've basically seen all of the like most impressive dunks ever. Like I would argue that like the Vince Carter year when he did the "It's Over," and then the year with Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon, I think those were
2016. That was
right.
2016 between
2016
Zach LaVine and
specifically.
Aaron Gordon. That's the best dunk contest ever. Since then,
Right.
it's been mid.
It's been mid. Um, And the only thing I have to say about this year's, well, I had two things. First of all, congrats to Mac McClung winning a second in a row. I can't remember if they said that's never been done before or if it's been a long time since that's been done. But anyway, huge accomplishment. Great job.
Also, just really quick, I think it's goofy that they give him a 10-day contract just so he can come up in time for the NBA All-Star
But then
weekend
he's
and then
not good.
immediately be
But
sent
then
back
he's
down to the
not
G
good
League.
enough to be on a team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think that's goofy that your two-time dunk contest champion isn't even in the NBA for people to watch. Like, how
Yeah.
does that get fans interested? There's a kid that's 7 years old watching the dunk contest, and he's like, "Oh, Mac McClung won. That's awesome. I want to see him play." Yeah, he's in the G League. You're not going to.
And Mac
Like,
McClung is sitting there at the podium like, I'm not going to be here.
yeah, like it just that just feels goofy to
It
me.
does. The only other thought I had about the dunk contest, how was Jaylen Brown the second place finisher?
His most impressive dunk was dunking over some guy named Kai Sanat, who was sitting in a chair.
And he's like 5'7".
Yeah, and he was also kind of like ducking.
Like at least Mac McClung dunked over Shaq.
He also grabbed the ball, like jumped over, dude, grabbed the ball, tossed it to himself, and then dunked. Like Mac McClung still had some good dunks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jaylen Brown's just that was
Jaylen Brown,
garbage.
yeah. How was he second place? That's anyway. We could be here all day. And then the most exciting event of All Star Weekend is that Steph Curry beat Sabrina Ionescu in the Steph versus Sabrina 3-point challenge, 29-26. I say this is the most exciting thing because Sabrina decided to shoot from the NBA 3-point line instead of the WNBA line to level the playing field. And then she tied Dame's winning score from the men's 3-point contest with 26. I saw a lot of haters online talking about, oh, she still used the WNBA ball, so it's easier to shoot. If Steph had used that ball, he'd have gone 32 at 32 or whatever. Shut up. Like, she's using the WNBA ball because her hand is smaller and she's not as built as Steph Curry because, like without getting too controversial, women are biologically different than men, and so, like, her ball is smaller, but that doesn't make it any easier. Like, sure,
Yeah,
if
so
Steph Curry were to shoot
Curry's
with,
been shooting with that ball his entire life. Sabrina's been shooting with that ball her entire life.
right,
It's the same.
right,
Like,
like
and she
people,
even stepped a few feet back.
like people are like, well, if Steph had that ball, well, of course, if Steph had a lighter ball, it'd be easier, but like a lighter and smaller ball, it'd be easier for him, but also, you know, it doesn't give her any advantage to use a smaller ball. Like, that's the thing. It's the exact same thing as if Steph Curry were shooting with the men's ball. Like, I don't want to hear that. She made it harder for herself and still almost won. And the reason why Dame's 3-point win isn't that impressive to me is because Sabrina did that. She shot from further back proportionally for herself and tied his score.
Yeah.
But that event was so cool. It was so cool to see the greatest shooter ever go against the greatest women's shooter ever, potentially. She broke Steph's record. Steph had 31 in the 3-point contest the year that he won it last. And then I think Sabrina shot like 32 or something like that in the women's 3-point contest. Like,
I'm not sure.
because I remember she broke his record, and I'm just like, it was such a cool event, and it does a lot to further like the WNBA and like put them more in the spotlight. That like now that the game has pivoted towards like 3-point shooting, like women really aren't that far behind. The fact that like I mean 29 is a really good round in the 3-point contest. Like the fact that Steph Curry had to be like really good to win that, when a lot of people said that either he was going to let her win, like give the WNBA a favor or whatever, which was stupid, or they thought he was going to beat her like 25-8.
Yeah.
Like, I just. Anyway, I think we've gotten kind of everything we needed to there. I think the only other ideas that we could maybe have are like how to make the All-Star weekend itself better. But I think we covered a lot of that with the actual game. The only other thing I could think of is maybe doing like a 3-on-3 game or something like that, or a 1v1. Like,
Yeah, I've seen a 1v1. You just have all like 24 players. I think that'd be really fun, because then it'd be like, what if the championship was like Shea versus Joel Embiid? Like, like what would that look like, and how, like I think that'd be really interesting to watch.
Can you imagine like if it ended up being like Trae Young against like Jokic or Giannis, and it was just Giannis being like, "Get that out of here," and then dunking on Trae for 21 straight points. I think like a game of I think like a game of knockout would be, or not like knockout or like horse would be really cool too. Like just fun.
Yeah, try to get creative with the shots.
Yeah, like fun things to like change it up, because the skills challenge is not fun at all. I don't know anybody that actually watches that seriously. The 3-point contest is okay. The dunk contest is mid now, and like more events like Steph versus Sabrina, I think, is the way to go.
Yeah, and I actually had an idea that I ran past you today, and it was next year, to kind of keep in that same vein, because Caitlin Clark will be drafted. So, and she's a fantastic college player. So, what about having something like Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark versus Dame Lillard and Sabrina Ionescu? Like, I think that'd be really fun to watch. I think Sabrina's better than Caitlin, but I think that Steph is better than Dame, so I think it kind of levels it a little bit. I think that would be fantastic to watch, and you just combine the scores of the two. I would watch that. That would be fantastic. I would love that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like, yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that's a great idea. I know I jokingly was like Steph and Sabrina clear, which they probably do, but also like it would just still be such a fun event.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's kind of all.
That's kind of all I had.
That's kind of all we had for the NBA All-Star Weekend. Like I said, there just wasn't really much to look at. So let's go on to some NFL offseason stories so far. I threw this first topic in specifically for you. The Cincinnati Bengals are franchise tagging T. Higgins. So I've just got a couple bullet points to get through, and then I kind of want your thoughts. I figured you'd have more to say here, but for me, I think this is a huge deal for Cincinnati. I think you've got one more chance to get it right and win the Super Bowl with your current roster. After that, you're going to have a lot of questions that you have to answer, and you just don't know what it's going to look like. I know Tyler Boyd is gone or likely gone, but you can get a solid number 3 receiver in the draft or free agency potentially, whereas without T, you're replacing the other half of your wide receiver duo. T is likely not going to re-sign with Cincinnati after this coming year, because I think he's on record saying like he wants money, and he could easily get the bag as a wide receiver 1 somewhere else. I know a couple of teams, Titans, that would be really interested in having a good number 1 receiver, especially a younger guy who has his best years ahead of him. especially with the contracts of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase coming in the next few years. Cincinnati just, I feel like unfortunately they're going to end up needing to part ways with him. So like I said, this is your last chance, I think, before you start having to answer some of those questions. So for me, I think this is a huge deal. You get one more year, or you potentially you can trade him and get some good pieces back. So I wanted to give you the floor now, let you get your thoughts out there. But yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, no, I think this is massive. I think, like you said, this is kind of like a do or die. It feels like. I'm not too worried about Tyler Boyd leaving just because they do have Andre Yoshivas and Trenton Irwin and what was his name? Chucky Jones? Was that his name? He was a punt returner, but he got hurt really early.
Who?
Like I said, he was a punt returner and got hurt really early, so you didn't see him a whole lot. But I'm not too worried about the wide receiver 3 position. But yeah, like you said, I think this is massive. I think there are a lot of teams that really want him. And just kind of going through the league, like he would be wide receiver 1 on half the league, half the teams at least, if not more. And so, he's gonna want money, and maybe with the salary cap increasing, they're able to get that done. But it just depends on what the Bengals are willing to prioritize when it comes to free agents and what they want to bolster. Because honestly, their defense was garbage this year, and their offensive line was garbage this year, and their running backs were kind of garbage this year. Yeah, it's weird that this team made it to a Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Their fan base, specifically one person in particular that I went to college with, was kind of garbage this year.
I mean, yeah. So, yeah, I think giving it one last run, it's going to be fun. I would love to see them find a way to make a deal and him to stay next year, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
For sure. Yeah, no, I just thought that was a fun little news bullet to put in there for you. The next story I had is that the NFL has increased their salary cap to a record $255.4 million. This is a $30.6 million increase, which is a staggering 13.6% jump. It is the biggest increase ever since the salary cap was introduced in 1994. A lot of the reports that I've seen are that teams have been planning based on the $240 to $245 million range. And so a lot of teams potentially can make some drastic moves because they've got $10 to $15 million extra that they can give to free agents. Part of the reason for this, there was a huge increase in media revenue. Plus, the league has finally paid back all of the player benefits that were deferred during the COVID-19 pandemic to keep the league running. I was looking back at some of the history of it, and from 2013 to 2020, the salary cap increased by roughly 10 to 12 million a year. It dropped 17 million in 2021 due to the pandemic, of course, and then has slowly climbed back up. But this is an unprecedented jump. Justin, what teams do you think benefit the most from a salary cap increase? Obviously, all of them do, but which ones do you think benefit the most?
I mean, I would say the Saints first of all because they have been in just salary cap hell for the last 10 years. It feels like they constantly have to restructure contracts and do whatever they can just to make sure that they can field a team. So I think getting $30 million extra kind of helps them take that off their back. So I think they benefit from this a lot. And I mean, the Commanders had the most cap space, and I think that jumped up with this number to $80 million. They can make a huge splash in free agency this year.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna be interesting to watch. Kind of seeing what they have going on with a new coach. They're going to draft a quarterback. So it'll just be interesting to see kind of what they do with all that money.
For sure. And then the second question I had is what would each of us like to see our specific teams do with the extra cap room?
You want me to go?
Go ahead, yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, I'd love to see the Bengals go out and bolster their interior defensive line. Baltimore had a great guy named, hope I don't mispronounce this, Justin Matabuike. That's how I'd say it. I don't know. But he did just have his, he's like a fifth year tackle or interior defensive lineman, sorry. And he just had 13 sacks and 12 tackles for losses this year. And I think that would fill a huge hole that would help them with their interior pass rush, which was abysmal this year. I mean, it was bad. So I think that helps them with that. And also, if they can find a way to get that deal done, to not have to use a draft pick on that position.
For sure, for sure. Sorry, I'm looking up. Um, okay, cool. So for the Titans, I would love to see them go get either Tyron Smith or Kevin Dotson um, for interior linemen for the offense because, wait, no. Yeah, I think both of those are offensive linemen, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
didn't do research for the Titans.
I'll get fact checked. I'm sure. Um, but either way, I would like to see the Titans go get at least a veteran tackle, for the offensive line. And to be honest, I think this extra salary cap room opens the door for potentially a Derrick Henry re-signing or um, maybe like an Austin Eckler or
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans or one of those names. So, I would like to see the Titans get a big name. If it's not going to be it either needs to be a big name weapon that's a free agent or a big name lineman for the offensive line because the Titans have a lot of questions and you're not going to be able to answer all of those through the draft. And so I think if Rand Carthen wants to show that he is an upgrade from John Robinson, good old J Rob,
Is that the GM?
Rand Carthen, yeah. If
Okay.
he wants to show that he was an upgrade over J Rob, the old GM, he needs to make a big splash. Yeah, Mike Evans or like an Austin Eckler or some kind of big name O-line person would be my pick there. So,
Gotcha.
we, instead of doing a tiers this year,
Which will be returning soon.
I just said this year. Instead of doing a tiers this episode, we decided to kind of, instead of doing like a mock draft or anything crazy like that, what we're going to do is each of us picked 5 draft picks that we feel are significant and so for example, we picked 5 teams based on like a need or, a significance of their pick or whatever. And we predicted who we think they pick and why. So, do you want to go like each of us gives one and then like alternate like that, or do you just want to do our 5 and then move on?
You can just do your 5.
Okay.
I did have just one thing that I put in the notes about your first one, but
I got you. So the kind of topic that I chose to focus around was the 5 teams that need a quarterback this year and my prediction for what they are going to do. So obviously, we got to start with number 1, right? Because the Chicago Bears, although I think there's a situation in which you could give Justin Fields longer with some better weapons because he did show improvement this year. Let me just give you the pick and then I'll explain why. So with the first overall pick, I have that the Chicago Bears are going to select Caleb Williams, quarterback from USC. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Caleb Williams, according to most every draft scout, is a generational talent. We're talking Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady-esque talent. In terms of what he can do on the field with his like athletic ability, his arm, and also his processing and his football IQ. If it were any other quarterback, I would say that the Bears should keep Fields for another year and trade down for way more picks. Like, because the number 1 overall pick, I mean, you could trade that for a king's ransom if this were any other year. However, this would be a mistake on the likes of Mahomes' rookie year when they passed on him for checks notes Mitch Trubisky.
Yeesh.
And I just think this would be like, and I mean, this is one of those where if the scouts are correct and you don't take Caleb Williams, you might as well just sell the team. Like, at that point, it is like that's one of those mistakes you don't come back from. And I'm curious as to what your thoughts are now, because those are the only notes I had for that pick.
So yeah, really quickly, I said that in our notes that it is imperative that the Bears draft Caleb Williams. My reasoning behind that is, if you look at it, obviously the goal is to win a Super Bowl, correct? That is the goal for all 32 teams at the beginning of the season. If you go back and you look at previous Super Bowls, and you look at who the quarterbacks playing in that Super Bowl were, you're looking at either Hall of Famers or quarterbacks that are on a rookie deal. Let's just go back through some recent ones. This past season, Chiefs, Niners, Mahomes, Hall of Famer, Purdy, rookie contract. Last year, Chiefs, Eagles, Mahomes, Hall of Famer, Hurts, rookie deal. Year before that, Stafford, Burrow. Stafford, Hall of Famer. Burrow, rookie deal. Year before that, Bucks and Chiefs. Brady and Mahomes, both Hall of Famers.
The GOAT.
Year before that, Chiefs, Niners, where you had Patrick Mahomes and Jimmy G. Jimmy G's an outlier. He's neither. Year before that, Brady versus Jared Goff. Jared Goff was on a rookie deal at the time. Sure Tom was. Brady's a Hall of Famer. Year before that, you had Carson Wentz / Nick Foles, who Nick Foles wasn't making any money because he was a backup, and Carson Wentz was on a rookie deal. And Tom Brady, Hall of Famer. Year before that, Tom Brady versus Matt Ryan. This is why I text you about this, because Matt Ryan's one of those guys that I'm like, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Like, is he a Hall of Famer? I'm not sure. He is an MVP. I think that's probably enough to get it, and a Super Bowl appearance. I think that's probably enough to get him in there.
Probably enough, but that's one of those fringe ones.
Yeah. Year before that, Peyton Manning and Cam Newton. Cam Newton was on a rookie deal at the time. And Peyton Manning. Year before that, Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. Year before that, Russell Wilson and Peyton Manning. Year before that, it was Colin Kaepernick and Joe Flacco. Kaepernick was on a rookie deal at the time. Joe Flacco, another reason correct. Actually, I think I did the research on this. I think Flacco was also on a rookie deal. He was on the last year of his rookie deal that year.
He was on the last year of his rookie deal, but he also, I think, qualifies as a Hall of Famer because of the Super Bowl win. I think you win a Super Bowl.
And then you have Eli Manning and Tom Brady, and then you have Aaron Rodgers and Big Ben, and then you have Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, and then you have
and that's just if I read you that list, it's Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer. Like, exactly.
And the year before that, you have Big Ben and Kurt Warner, and then Eli Manning and Peyton and Tom Brady.
God,
Peyton Manning
could you imagine if we had gotten Eli and Peyton's Super Bowl?
That would have been fantastic.
That would have been fantastic. Peyton Manning would have won that 52-7, but we would have gotten that would have been a great Super Bowl.
And then year before that, Peyton Manning and Rex Grossman. Rex Grossman was on a rookie deal. The year before that was Big Ben and
Matt
Hasselbeck. That's what it was. Yeah, I think he was another outlier. I don't know if he was on a rookie deal or not. I don't think so. But you get the trend that I'm saying. That is the last 20 Super Bowls.
Titans legend, Matt.
There's like one outlier with Jimmy G who was not on a rookie deal and will not be a Hall of Famer. One outlier in 20 years. 40 quarterbacks.
Matt Hasselbeck was on the Titans at one point.
Yeah. Like I even went 2004 was Tom Brady and Jake Delhomme or Delhomme or however the hell you say his last name.
I think Delhomme, but I mean,
I think he was on a rookie deal at the
he
time
was on a
too.
rookie deal. That's I think his only highlight.
Yeah.
Um,
You get what I'm saying.
yeah,
This is
I
why
get
it's
where you're going with
imperative
this.
because if you stick with Justin Fields, you're essentially saying that he is because he's going to be off his rookie deal. You're essentially saying he's a Hall of Famer if you think that he's going to lead you to a Super Bowl. I love Justin Fields. He went to Ohio State. Big Ohio State fan. He's not a Hall of Famer, at least not yet, and I don't think he has the likes to be, unless he just automatically finds something within himself. So I know I went on a long tangent there, but this is why I think it is imperative that the Bears draft Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Justin Fields just goes to Atlanta like he's forecasted to and just proceeds to have one of our Madden rookie year in franchise where he throws for like 14,000 yards and 200 touchdowns.
They just win every game 112-2.
To 1 somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, sorry about that tangent.
You're
but
good.
You get the point I'm making.
The point is a more wordy version of what I was saying, and that if it was anybody but Caleb, I think you could make an argument. I mean, Justin Fields would still be on a rookie deal, so like you could make an argument to keep him around, give him another chance. But with it being Caleb Williams, you can't. The number 2 overall pick, the Washington Commanders. I have them taking Jaden Daniels, quarterback from LSU. Reasoning for that is Washington has the weapons to give Daniels a chance to be great. And before this, I actually was considering Marvin Harrison Jr. However, whenever they announced that they were signing Cliff Kingsbury to be their OC, Kingsbury had a lot of success with Kyler Murray. Like him or not, he did. Cliff Kingsbury also had a lot of success with like Johnny Manziel and some other guys who at Texas A&M and in college, which blew my mind. I was watching Johnny Manziel's interview with Shannon Sharp that just came out I think it was either yesterday or the day before on his Club Shay Shay podcast. And if you haven't listened to it, go give it a listen because it's one of the most like real, sobering, just raw episodes. Like it just truly gives you a look into like the man behind Johnny football. But you really get to learn a lot about like Cliff Kingsbury and his offensive style. So Jaden Daniels is a true dual threat quarterback talent, and he is a dynamic force on the field. He would be more physically. I think I've seen he might be more physically gifted than Caleb Williams, and where Caleb beats him out is like the mental stuff. But he would fit in well with the Cliff Kingsbury-led offense of the Commanders. Plus, they've got weapons that would give Daniels a chance to be great pretty early. So, yeah, that would be my pick for the second pick. The number 3 overall pick, and this one's probably my spiciest, it's the New England Patriots, and they take Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver from Ohio State. New England needs a lot of help. They're bereft of talent on offense, and that will make a rookie quarterback's job extremely hard.
Good vocab word, bereft.
Yeah, like extremely hard. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. actually makes a lot of sense for the Patriots here, as they can sign a free agent quarterback like Ryan Tannehill, Jacoby Brissett, or Gardner Minshew. All 3 of those guys are proven veterans at this point that are definitely a solid bridge quarterback. They could be a cheap option for the Patriots while they continue to build for the future. The Patriots are not like potentially the Bears or the Commanders who feel that they're only a quarterback away. They're not. And anyone who says that they are is a deranged Patriots fan. Marvin Harrison Jr. is too good of a talent to pass on for a franchise that is rebuilding and needs all the offensive help they can get. I think you get Marvin Harrison Jr., you get him a veteran quarterback that can help him build confidence, get him the ball. You sign some picks to, or you sign some players to bolster your offense. And I think with Gerard Mayo and a new regime coming into New England, I think you'll see a pivot to a more offensive style. Even though Gerard Mayo is a defensive coach, I think he can take where the Patriots were going wrong and turn that around. But yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. third to the Patriots. The 8th overall pick, it's the Atlanta Falcons, and I think they take this is provided they don't trade for Justin Fields. You trade for Justin Fields, obviously this is a moot point. Then I think my pick changes to maybe like a Brock Bowers or something like that. But the 8th overall pick, Atlanta Falcons take Bo Nix, quarterback from Oregon. Bo Nix has made a lot of starts. He would be a great fit in Atlanta, who needs a mature, talented quarterback who can make use of all the weapons they have on offense, like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson.
Arthur Smith's over there like, whoo!
Yeah, for real. Tyler Algier.
Right.
Bo Nix has a big arm, and he makes good decisions on the field. Plus, I mean, he started for what, like 6 years, something like that.
I'm like, yeah,
I
he might
think
be as old as I am.
I think with all of that experience, I think he transitions to the field very quickly. And he's the kind of mature but cheap quarterback that Atlanta needs to really take them to that next level. That's another team that I feel like they're maybe not just a quarterback away, but having the right quarterback will do them wonders. And I think you need a guy. You need a guy who's more calm in the pocket versus someone who's going to just take off running after his first read, stuff like that. So,
Especially in that division, which feels wide open.
exactly. So what you don't need is an unproven quarterback who, like a Malik Willis or something, who is going to make one read and then take off running, because you're going to lose a lot of games that way, and you're not taking advantage of your weapons. At this point, I mean, Kyle Pitts has been there for like 3-4 years now. I think this will be his 4th year.
Yeah, because he was the same draft as Jamar, and this will be
Yeah,
Jamar. Yeah,
yeah, and then Bijan was a rookie this past year, right? Or has he been there
yeah,
for
and Drake. No, yeah, and Drake London. This will be his 3rd year.
3rd year? Yeah. So I mean, you've got some pieces that are getting to the point where they're going to start looking at re-signing or getting an extension, and
And they're entering their prime.
they're entering their prime. So you need a quarterback like I honestly like. This is one of my favorite picks, Bo Nix to the Falcons, because I think that he just has that maturity that would. I think that's perfect for them. And then with the 13th overall pick, got the Las Vegas Raiders taking Drake May, quarterback of North Carolina. And I quantified this in the notes with this one is maybe a bit of a reach, but I do think that if there's one quarterback that falls in the draft, it's Drake May. I've not heard much about him lately that is good. I've heard a lot of, tends to have inconsistent throws and is not quite the talent as some of the other names here. And I think he could be available for the Raiders to get their guy at number 13 when they pick. Another realistic scenario I could see for the Raiders, however, is to trade up to get a quarterback higher, or even maybe if they don't think their guy is there at quarterback, maybe trading down and trying to get some talent, because the Raiders are kind of in the same boat as, not nearly as bad as the Patriots, but they're kind of in the same boat where it's like Josh Jacobs and that's it, because Devontae Adams is rumored to not want to be there anymore. Like I've heard rumors of him going to the Jets. And they feel like a team that's not just a quarterback away. So, like, while I think if Drake May is there at 13, they probably take him. I don't know that he's the best fit there. So, that's the one that is definitely the most interesting for me, is what they do. So those are my 5.
Yeah, I'll get into it. I did not go in order like you did, like numerically. Just kind of listed some teams that I thought what they wanted.
That was the OCD side of me taking over after, because I realized that when I realized that I had the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd pick with the quarterback needs, it didn't make any sense to do them out of order.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to do mine a little out of order, but these are just 5 teams that I just think they're in an interesting situation. So my first one, I have the Broncos. They have the 12th overall pick, and I have them selecting J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. I have a feeling the Broncos will not be throwing Russ back out there as their quarterback in 2024. And I think J.J. McCarthy has impressed some scouts, and I won't be shocked to see him go this high. And I say this high, but I also mean that he's going to be behind the major quarterbacks. He's going to be behind Bo Nix and Caleb Williams and Drake May and Jaden Daniels. And, he's going to be behind these guys, but he's still going to go 12th. I think the Broncos are in need of a quarterback, and I think J.J. McCarthy could be a good fit for that system. With the 6th overall pick, I have the New York Giants. And before I say who they're going to select, I'm just going to be honest. They need help everywhere.
Yeah, they're another one of those teams that is not just a quarterback away.
Yeah, I'm not going to be shocked if they draft a quarterback here. Clearly, Daniel Jones is not the guy, and what hurts you even more is you're paying him $40+ million. But if you can find someone that's way cheaper through the draft and find a way to move off of Daniel Jones, I think one of these QBs could be the answer. However, I don't see that happening. So I have the Giants selecting with the 6th overall pick, Rome Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. I think it's just another weapon as part of their rebuild, kind of similar to like a Marvin Harrison to the Patriots. They just need dudes on offense, and I think he provides that.
I think the Giants are another team that could be like a Tannehill, Brissett, or Minshew candidate. Like, just get you a bridge,
you saw what Tyrod Taylor did.
Yeah. And I mean, as much hate as Tannehill got, low key, if Kirk Cousins re-signs, Tannehill would actually, depending on the team, would be a really good bridge quarterback. Like Tannehill with an O-line is still a good quarterback. He's not, as we've said many a time, he's not a world beater, but he would be a solid fit for like the Giants, who have talent. Mostly their issues are like O-line and defense.
Yeah. With that being said, we're talking about Kirk Cousins. With the 11th pick with the Vikings, I have them selecting Michael Penix Jr., quarterback from Washington.
Who? No, I'm just kidding.
I think that Cousins is going to be gone. I saw that he recently posted a video of him throwing on a tennis court just 4 months after he tore his Achilles. I don't think he'd be doing that and posting that video if he was secure in his talks to re-sign with the Vikings. It's kind of similar to one of those things that, like, you don't download a dating app if you're married. If you're secure in your relationship, you don't download a dating. It's the same thing. You don't post that video if you're secure with your relationship with the Vikings, if you're Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing.
Now, sorry, real quick. I do know Cousins wants to be back on the Vikings.
Yeah. I agree. From everything I've seen, he loves being there.
He has even said he would take a much more team-friendly deal. Like, that is direct quote from him, is he would take a much more team-friendly deal to come back. Like, I know he wants to be there. The question is, do the Vikings want him to be there? And that is where your next point comes in.
Yeah. Given that, I just don't think that they're going to re-sign him. They're going to need a replacement. And I think Penix provides the accuracy that Kirk Cousins gives you, but I think he also provides a little more movement and a little more agility to kind of create than what Kirk Cousins gives you currently and would give you coming off an Achilles tear. I think you pair him with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I think that he could thrive in the Twin Cities.
My only pushback on Penix here would be a lot of the questions about Penix revolve around the fact that he's blown out both of his legs. And so
I still think he provides more mobility than Kirk Cousins.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I don't know that the Vikings would want to draft a quarterback in the first round that is going to be an injury concern whenever they're moving off of an injury concern. Not, like I said, not that I'm disagreeing with you that he would be more mobile, but I could see that being a hesitation there.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And then I chose the Seahawks. They have the 16th overall pick. And for some reason, I just decided to go with a Washington theme here. Because I have them selecting Troy Fautanu.
Troy Polamalu?
Who is an offensive lineman for Washington. I think this one's interesting. They have a new head coach. They have Geno Smith. I have a feeling that they're going to be actively finding a way to move up and draft one of the high-end quarterbacks. But this pick was assuming that they stay at 16. and find if they want a replacement for Geno, finding it through free agency. But I think boosting their offensive line, which ranked very close to the bottom, it was not good of the league last year. I think drafting Troy Fatanu. I mean, it's like there isn't Washington University, isn't that in Seattle or University of Washington?
I think so.
Or
It's
it's
either in
near
Seattle or
it's
right
got
next
yeah
to it.
it's gonna be like it's like less than an hour drive minimum. So I mean he's right down the road. So I think that'd be an interesting draft for them.
Yeah.
And then finally,
Speaking, you were saying they might try to find a quarterback in free agency. You know, I could do a mean jersey swap for Russell Wilson. I think he would be a solid.
that jersey swap would go crazy.
It would. Man, let me get on that. It'll take me a while.
Yeah. All right, and then my last one, I have the Steelers with the 20th pick. And I have them drafting offensive tackle from Georgia, Amarius Mims. This one to me is the most unique pick of the draft, at least the first round. Because on one hand, you have the Steelers that have solid talent on both sides of the ball between a very serviceable running back room, two top-end wide receiver talents, playmakers all over the defensive side of the ball between T.J. Watt, Joey Porter Jr., I mean, you name them. And, you know, their O-line played much better than expected this year. But the one thing that they can't get over is a quarterback, or the lack thereof. Because Kenny Pickett is just not the guy.
But
I think he's proven that. And seeing as they sit at 20, there's no shot that Penix, Williams, Daniels, May, or Nix, or McCarthy slide to 20. I'd be very hard-pressed to see that happen, given the fact that so many teams ahead of them also need quarterbacks. So I think their best course of action is to find a quarterback through free agency. I've heard rumors of Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, or even Russell Wilson. And then they draft another O-lineman in the first round.
Can you imagine Russell Wilson in a Steelers jersey? Ugh.
Yeah, that just feels wrong. But yeah, those are the 5 that I had.
Perfect. So, added a little fun one here for us. Some things we would like to see our teams do. So, my Tennessee Titans have the wonderful 7th overall pick. And given that in my mock draft here, Marvin Harrison Jr. is gone, I would like to see the Tennessee Titans take Malik Neighbors, wide receiver from LSU. I think the Titans need weapons. They have their quarterback. They can take several offensive linemen later in the draft or trade for picks, or even just sign proven linemen in free agency, which I think I like as well. But I think Neighbors is too good to pass on if he's there at 7. If he's not there at 7, I like what every other mock draft is saying they do, where they pick Joe Alt, offensive tackle from Notre Dame, or like a Brock Bowers tight end from Georgia to boost the offense. So there's several things here, but I think if Neighbors is there and they don't pick him, I'm rooting for the Bengals next year.
Awesome. So pretty much if they don't choose Neighbors or Joe Alt, you're a Bengals fan.
Or Bowers. There are 3 names that they could announce that I will be happy with. And if it's not one of those 3, or that somehow we traded up to get like Caleb Williams or something, I'm not watching.
Fair enough. As for the Bengals, I would love to make a huge for the Bengals to make a huge splash and trade up whatever they have to give up for Brock Bowers. Whatever spot they have to get Brock Bowers, I would love that. I know we have decent tight ends. Drew Sample's a great blocker, and
clearly they're not that great because you don't remember their names.
I can't think of the tight end that we just. He only played like 8 games this year.
Trenton Irwin, right?
No, that's a wide receiver.
Wide receiver. Oh,
Tanner Hudson. That's it. Tanner Hudson.
I knew it was a T name, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah. So like we do have serviceable tight ends, but Brock Bowers, like he's that guy. He is that guy. However, I know this is unlikely because the last time the Bengals traded up in the first round of a draft was 1995 when they traded the 5th overall pick in a 4th rounder for the 1st overall pick in that draft, which they used to draft running back Kijana Carter. If you also don't know who that is, you and about 99% of Americans agree with you.
That does say Kijana Carter. Okay.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Who?
I do know how to read. However, if they stay at 18, which I have a feeling is more likely, I think that they'd be best served drafting someone to bolster their O-line. So I think either Amarius Mims from Georgia or Tylisi Fuaga from Oregon State. Once again, I'm hoping I'm not mispronouncing these names, but also it's not like these guys are listening to this, so I don't really care that much. I'm pronouncing them to the best of my ability.
Plot twist, they are. What are you doing if you see that the Cincinnati Bengals traded for the 7th overall pick from the Titans and they traded T. Higgins and the 18th overall pick? No? Fair enough.
No.
Fair enough. All right. So yeah, that's our little draft segment. I'm sure we'll have way more to talk about the draft between now and the actual draft. But just wanted to.
And don't worry, Tabner's Tears is coming back.
Oh, thank goodness! I was so worried.
I know.
on to hot takes. It's one of my personal favorite segments because we get to say just outlandish things and then revisit them later, like whatever idiot it was that said that the Ravens would miss the playoffs.
Or that Patrick Mahomes was a system quarterback.
Golly, dude.
Don't know who would have said those things.
Well,
definitely not the co-host of this show.
That's crazy. Anyway, my first hot take, the Cincinnati Bengals will fire everyone, and no, I'm just kidding. My first hot take.
I mean, yeah.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win the 2024 NBA MVP and will lead the Oklahoma City Thunder to the NBA Finals. This one's self-explanatory.
The only pushback that I have on that is that Jokic just dropped like 2 straight games of having at least 15 points, 15 boards, and 15 assists.
That's fair, but hear my counter argument. I don't care.
Fair enough.
SGA has been great.
Shai also has like, they've played like 50 plus games. I think it's like 56 games, and he scored at least 30 in like 42 of those.
See, the thing is, Jokic is the boring vote, but SGA is the cool and exciting vote. And if you don't vote for SGA for MVP, then you're a square, and no one wants to be a square. So basically,
don't be square.
Basically, you gots to now. So there you go. That's my first hot take.
My first hot take was kind of in the same vein. I think the Western Conference Finals will consist of OKC and the Denver Nuggets. I think OKC's athleticism is going to be enough to get past a potential, like Minnesota if they end up meeting. And I think that their size match, like between Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, JAY, and they just got Gordon Hayward, and they didn't have to give up much for him. I think that they did enough, and I think Denver, just in general, they just look like the better team, at least better than a lot of teams in the West. I just don't think any teams are going to be able to compete with these two. So that's my Western Conference Finals prediction.
I think the only difference in our Western...
Of course, I have to go OKC in 6.
Yeah, our difference in Western Conference Finals is I don't have the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals because I think the Lakers upset them sooner.
Huh?
The Lakers match up well with the Nuggets. This actually isn't my hot take, but because I said this earlier in the season. The Lakers match up well with the Nuggets. AD can guard Jokic, and I think the Lakers
really going to buckle down and hold him to 27, 16, and 12.
I want Iguodala.
That'd be an off night for Jokic.
I want Iguodala. Anyway,
Anyway,
my second hot take before I get canceled for something else of a take is that the Washington Commanders will make the playoffs in the 2024-2025 NFL season, which I think we both have said this
yeah.
previously on this show, but I'm
Yep.
sticking to it.
Fair enough. I'm glad you agree with me.
Sticking with it.
My second hot take, earlier in the show, we talked about potential free agent signings for running backs, and I mentioned something about Saquon Barkley. You think his landing spot is going to be the Chargers. I think Saquon is going to sign with the Houston Texans. Look it. Saquon to the Texans, baby. Texans about to run that division. Oh, God. All right, what is he doing? Okay. I don't like this. What's happening?
I booked it. You said to book
Okay.
it. I wrote it down.
All right. Yeah, God.
Oh, gosh. Why do we host a podcast?
I can't wait for Saquon to retire. Now that I said that.
Could you imagine? All of the like talk is him like going to, the Chargers, or like him getting a massive deal. Like he was talking about how he wants to get paid and all that. He's just like, nah, I've had enough. It's been real.
I'm taking my talents to the couch.
Oh man,
just holds like a big press conference, like what LeBron did to go to Miami, and just yeah, I'm retiring.
He's got like all of the hats for his next team laid out like a college signing day, and then the last one is just like a picture of his house.
he pulls it out from under the table.
Yeah, he just I'm going home. It's been real, y'all. Peace.
That would be the best thing ever.
All right. Well, Justin, this has been a fun episode.
Yeah, we've done enough goofing around.
Good one to come back on. Like I said, we'll have plenty more NFL content, I'm sure, as things come on, and hopefully some cool stuff happens in the NBA, and we get some fun topics there. We've also got March Madness coming up, which is going to be lit, and then I guess after all of that, baseball exists. So
baseball returns in like 20 days. I think it's a little bit more than that. It's like 25, 30, something like that. Hey, Reds are winning the NL Central. I know you don't care, but I'll be our baseball guy.
You want to know how excited I am for baseball season?
You're not.
Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, everyone, so much for listening to the show. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, and be sure to like us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. On behalf of Justin, I'm Ben, and thanks so much for listening to us today. And until next time, have a good one.